Alright, so for a homework review, I posted a table for every single graph, and you really shouldn't need me to walk you through every single one, but I think what I'll do is I'll maybe go over three, and that should be sufficient, and then you remember you have your quiz today too. Okay? So let's get started here. I think I have three graphs already drawn. Yep. So I'll pick three you might have had a little bit of a hard time with. The other ones you should be able to figure out just by looking at the answers that I posted. Alright, so number 14 should have been fine. I'm thinking you probably had a hard time with numbers. Let me see here. Probably number 20 you might have had a hard time with. And let's see, I'll go over number 20. Number 24 should have been pretty easy. We've done similar ones to 24. And number 30, you could just look in the notes for those. And so I'll do number 20, maybe number 18, and 20, 18, and 22. 18, 20, and 22. I think those are probably the ones you might have had the hardest time with. The other ones were more straightforward. So for number 18, it says y is equal to negative 1/3 the sine of 2 theta plus 45 degrees. Okay, so we are going to take out the 2. Alright, and right away we can see that the amplitude is going to be 1/3. The period is going to be 360 divided by 2, or 180. And the phase shift is one of those weird ones. It's 22.5 to the left. So, the way I'm going to draw this, because the phase shift is weird, remember we had talked about this on a homework assignment. Anytime you have a weird phase shift that's not 90, 180, if it doesn't go up by 90s, let's go up by the phase shifts. So let me show you what I mean here. So I went up by 90. In between those would be 45s. And then in between those would actually be the 22.5. So I'm just going to get the feel for things, and then I'll draw the graph. All right, you'll see what I'm talking about. So whenever we go to plot a graph, we always use the original. And by the way, it looks like the highest it's going to go is 1/3, right? So I'll make this 1/3, 0.3 repeating. Half of that is like 0.15. All right, so let's see what happens here. I'm going to go 0, 22.5, 45. 45 plus 22.5 is 67.5. Then I'll get to 90. Then I'll add 22.5, which is 112.5. And hopefully this gives me a good idea of what the graph should look like. We're going to have the sine of 2a plus 45. All right, so let's type this in here. Negative 1 divided by 3 times the sine of 2 mem variable a plus 45. I'm going to type 0 in. And I'm getting that's negative 0.2. The period is 180 degrees. So I'm going to put negative 0.2 every 180 degrees. All right. Now let's go to 22.5. I'm going to store 22.5, store it for A, and I'm getting negative 0.3. That's good. All right, so now let's try 45. 45, I'm getting negative 0.2 again. Looks like it's going to start trying to come back up again. Try 67.5. Again, we're using these weird numbers because our phase shift was a weird number. And that looks like that's going to be 0. All right, so it looks like we kind of have an idea of what the graph's going to look like. If we store 90, we get 0.2. I mean, we don't have to go super crazy here. All right, for me, I mean, M112.5, let's just see what that is. It's going to be 0.3. Looks like the graph looks something like this. You know, I mean, is it perfect? No, but you get the idea. Every 180 degrees, the graph repeats. Looks like a wave. It's good enough. All right, there's an actual word for that. A word for good enough means satisfice. That means good enough. I learned that word. I thought it's pretty cool. All right. All right, so let's see the next one. Number 20. Number 20, it says we have a cotangent. Y is equal to the cotangent of theta minus 90. So we know we don't have a cotangent button. The amplitude would be none. Period would be 180 divided by 1. Phase shift is 90 degrees to the right. So the way we have to make this chart is we figure out what's the tangent of theta minus 90, and then we do 1 divided by that number, because that is the cotangent of theta minus 90. So it's a little tricky. All right, so let's see what we get here. Tangent of A minus 90, store 0. I'm getting undefined. Undefined means 0's on the bottom. I don't know what's on top, but if you take the reciprocal of that, 0 goes on top. Store 90. And that's 0. So the reciprocal of 0 would be 1 over 0, which is undefined. 180, store it. It's undefined again. Remember, undefined means 0's on the bottom, so the reciprocal would be 0 on top. And we start to see a pattern here. At 0, it's 0. The period's 180, so every 180 degrees, it's going to be the same thing. 90, it's undefined. Every 180 degrees, it's going to be the same thing. And I know cotangent looked like this. It's kind of like the opposite of tangent. It's going the other way. And that's how you should have drawn number 20. And I'll go over one more. The other one should have been easy enough for you to figure out based on my charts. Number 22. All right, so for number 22, it says we have 2y is equal to 10 times the sine of theta over 2 plus 90. Okay, let's clean it up by dividing by 2 first. Remember, we just divide the 10 by 2. We don't do what's inside here. And then we could factor out the 1/2 in front. All right, so now it's easy to see that our amplitude is 5. Our period is going to be 360 divided by 1/2. And the phase shift is going to be 180 degrees to the left. All right, so let's rearrange our axes then. Now sine looks like a wave. I'm going to type this into my calculator. We always use the one with the theta like unchanged. So we're going to type in 5 times the sine, a divided by 2 plus 90 degrees. We'll use negative 360, negative 270, negative 180, negative 90, and 0. So let's see what we get here. 5 times the sine of mem variable a divided by 2 plus 90. And when we use negative 360, I'm getting negative 5. And if the period is 720, it's going to be the same thing over here. Kind of have a feeling it's going to look something like this. But let's double check. Negative 270, store it. I'm getting negative 3.5. Negative 180, store it. I'm getting 0. Negative 90, store it. I'm getting 3.5. And let's guess what it's going to be at 0. 5. All right. And then, of course, it has to come back down. So, I mean, we could just kind of mirror these points over. If you want to plug them into your calculator, be my guest, but these kind of graphs, there's a pattern, so you don't have to plug in every single one unless you just want to double check and make sure. All right, so those are the 3 hardest problems from your homework. The other problems, the tables are up there for you to look at. Please make sure you finish the quiz by midnight tonight. Thank you so much. Good luck. Have a nice day.